Hello GBA fans and welcome back for the Week 9 recap for GBA Season 10. My name is Aster and I'm here with my co-host Zilix this week, and we're not going to waste any time, we're going to jump right into standings. Starting us off in the first position, of course, we have the Bullet Punch Club, coached by Uzi, 27 points, sitting very comfortably at the top. Next up in second, we have the Borussia Donphan with 20 points, and sneaking into third this week, we have QtheCostaRican's Chicago Dragapults with 19 points. The next two teams also have 19 points, being Jay's Atlanta Victinis as well as Playmore Esports, and the next four teams on our leaderboard are fighting for that sixth and final playoff position. We have the New York Empoleon sitting with 15 points, currently in sixth. Then we have Dell's Edmonton Coilers at 14 points, directly behind, going to be looking for a big win this week. Next up in eighth, we have the Wolver-Hampton Weaviles, and in ninth, very tough to make playoffs here, but George can still do it. The San Francisco Arcaniners are sitting with 11 points in the ninth position. Finally, our last three teams are essentially knocked out of playoffs at this point, but can still pick up a win here in the last week. We have the Copenhagen Sawsbucks sitting with 7 points in the 10th position. At 11th, we have the Calgary Flamethrowers, also with 7 points. And finally, we have D.Rey's San Diego Snugglers in the last position with 6 points. Now that you know where the teams stand on the leaderboard, let's see how they got there and check out this week's matches. First off, we have Playmore Esports at home taking on the visiting New York Empoleon, coached this week by Addison, their assistant coach. The first play of the game also gets my play of the match, as Playmore's Choice Scarfed Hisuian Samurott is able to land a near knockout on New York's Mew with a ceaseless edge while also getting up a spike. This may not seem like a big deal until you factor that Addison had planned to be able to close combat the Samurott and get out with an eject pack before ever taking the damage. That lone spike would make it very difficult for New York's team to live hits they otherwise would and even get KOs that they should have, as we saw the Zangoose attempt to knock out the opposing Glamora with Final Gambit, but failed to do so as the Zangoose's HP was now lowered due to the spike. Just a few turns later, with the help of Bubby the Appleton's light screen, the Roaring Moon now had a clear path to victory with just the use of Terra Flying boosted acrobatics. All thanks to that turn 1 ceaseless edge. A very quick win, well done to Playmore, and we're excited to see what they'll do in Week 10 and in playoffs.
For our next matchup, we have the home team, the Calgary Flamethrowers, facing off against Borussia Donphan as our away team. Early on in this battle, we see 3 electric types drop as the Pawmot and the Terra Electric Quackable trade close combats. Then the Hisuian Electrode booms after setting up a screen, trying to enable a Curse Weakness Policy Slowking to set up behind that screen. But the Volcanion is able to come in and terrestrialize into a Grass type, shutting the Slowking down. That Volcanion then proves to be a threat, taking out the Ursaluna as well. Calgary then loses their Baxcalibur to Cloth, and while they are able to remove both the Iron Treads and Weavile from the Donphan's roster, that Cloth comes in again to live a +2 Flamethrower from Salazzle, claiming another KO and sealing the fate of the match as Terragrass Volcanion beats the Slowking, giving Borussia the 3-0 win on the road.
Next up, we have the Chicago Dragapults at home receiving the San Diego Snugglers. Q set the pace of this match completely with the very first exchange of the game, weakening Kurpie's Gothitelle using an Agility Enamorous Therian to the point where it could no longer safely ever come in on an attacker, namely the Iron Hands, which essentially got all the damage Q needed in this game. However, play of the game goes to Chicago's Paldean Tauros Water variant, as its Raging Bull attack was able to set Kurpie even further behind by breaking the Reflect that the Snuggler's Klefki had set up. Iron Moth was then able to knock out what seemed like a check in Palafin hero form, but thanks to that well-selected Terra Grass typing, a newly acquired resistance to water and a powered-up energy ball were all that were needed for Palafin to go from check to moth food. All Kurpie really had left was a Terra Fairy Annihilate, and while that Pokemon is scary, facing down a Mesprit, Iron Moth, Tauros, and Choice Specs Dragapult, there's only so much one monkey can do. So Q takes this one in a commanding fashion and leaps the Dragapults into third in the standings.
Taking a look at our next matchup, we have the home team Copenhagen Sawsbucks facing off against the away team of the Wolver-Hampton Weaviles. In this match, we do see Copenhagen overpredict a bit early on, allowing the Screamtail on the side of the Weaviles to set up Stealth Rocks and the Sunny Day, enabling those Photosynthesis Mons, and also weakening Iron Bundle's water moves. Eventually, the pivoting does work out for the Sawsbucks, as they're able to bring in that Iron Bundle against the Walking Wig, forcing Screamtail into incredibly low HP. Even more switching around occurs, and eventually Weaviles learn that Slowbro has the Thunder Wave. With this knowledge, they bring the Frosmoth in and Terrastalize into a ground type, preventing the Thunder Wave from taking effect and allowing for a second Quiver Dance. From here, there isn't much that can stop the Frosmoth aside from Iron Bundle, which does outspeed but barely misses out on the KO, enabling Frosmoth to sweep the rest of the team for a massive 6-0 victory for the away team.
The Atlanta Victinis hosting the Edmonton Coilers. Jay did not have a favorable start to this match, as he quickly learned how detrimental having any item other than protective pads or punching glove on a rapid strike Urshifu can be, as Dell's Galarian Slowking holding a Rocky Helmet took away most of the Bears' health. However, Dell felt he didn't have a way to 1v1 the substitute plus bulk up Urshifu, being that he only carried Future Sight and Flamethrower this week. As attacking moves, the ensuing switch would spell disaster for Edmonton, as the Victinis also switched, and into their biggest threat no less, Komala. Yes, Komala was a threat this game. With no normal resist, Dell was now staring down a +2 attack Komala and was forced to throw away Thundurus just to get it low. Jay made a misstep with his Sandy Shocks, forgetting that Dell's lead Donphan was in fact Air Balloon and could safely switch into an Earth Power. He recovered though from this by dodging not one but 2 Hydro Pumps from Frogadier. Yeah, all the low tiers were here to play this week. Play of the game, though, goes to Atlanta using Trick on their Gardevoir to lock the Slowking into Thunderwave, allowing for a Bleak Wind Storm sweep from Tornadus into Iron Valiant and the locked Slowking. Dell now needs a win in this last week to make playoffs, while Jay is now sitting pretty at 19 points in 4th.
For our next matchup, we have the home team of the Bullet Punch Club facing the away team, the San Francisco Arcaniners. Starting the battle, we see an unfortunate overprediction by the Arcaniners, assuming that the Specs Pyroar would switch when faced with Hawlucha. San Francisco goes for a Swords Dance and loses their Hawlucha early. They are, however, able to force out the Pyroar with Tinkaton, setting up a Swords Dance, and this time it is the Bullet Punch Club making the misplay, not seeing the Air Balloon on Tinkaton, allowing them to knock out the Clodsire, but this just allows that Pyroar to come back in since it was preserved, taking out the Gyarados and proving to be a continuous problem for their team, being able to just switch in and get a KO several times throughout the battle. For the rest of the game, the Arcaniners make several correct calls, but unfortunately they don't have the power to break through Azumarill, which is able to clean up the game, giving the Bullet Punch Club a 4-0 victory on the home field.
That'll do it for Zilix and myself this week. Thank you all for watching this week's recap for GBA Season 10, Week 9. Make sure to go and follow all the coaches in the description down below as usual, as playoffs will be starting very soon, and you won't want to miss that. We'll see you guys next week.